From a little cover, I got my dreams inside. Wrestling on the mat, I go and put up a fight. With every hold and slam, I rise to the peak. Now as Professor Bear, it's my strength that they see. Roaring with knowledge like a lion so proud. In this wrestling world, I'm standing out loud. I'm Professor Bear, got the passion to spare. Wrestling's my life, with the power to share. From the roots to ropes, in the spotlight we gleam. Chasing victory dreams, living out the theme. Now my WOSN, my squad.
Yeah. Hey, new beginnings on the cusp. Not too old to adjust. Old dog, new tricks. Remember, I was just a pup. Something dirty in my cup. Clean soul.
With my boys crew, we'll always ride. In the wrestling world, one just claim the prize.
Welcome, and thank you for joining me this evening. I am Professor Bear, and this is A Bear's Thoughts. Guys, girls, I know we are in a new month, and I said that we were done with the appreciation month for promotions, but I had a few that the scheduling got kind of messed up, and mostly it's my fault. I just ain't gonna lie, and and I wouldn't have felt right by saying I'm gonna do something, and I did not do it. So, with that being said, I got to have Coastal Empire Wrestling come on, and we're gonna talk about them. And I have Corey. Corey, how are you doing today, sir?
I'm doing fantastic. How are you doing today?
I'm a little fluddled. I ain't gonna lie, but you know what? That's the good thing about lives. Things happen. You adjust. You make the appropriate adjustments, and you get to it.
Oh, yes, sir. I definitely agree.
So I will ask you, just like I ask all of my guests, how did you become a wrestling fan?
So I was a kid in, small town, South Georgia, and wrestling was a big thing. I was a 90s kid, so the Monday Night Wars were a big thing. WWE, WCW, Monday Night Raw versus Nitro, and just the overall larger than life characters on both sides, be DX, NWO, Stone Cold, Goldberg, Undertaker, Sting. It was something to latch onto and just really kind of like now wrestling, it takes everybody's problems away for those hours that you're attached to it.
Definitely. And that's what I love about wrestling. No matter what you have going on in life, or unfortunately the things that goes on in the world, there is an escape for it for a little while.
Most definitely.
So, with you being a fan of it, how did you go from being a fan to being in the wrestling business?
So I initially started my wrestling journey at my first indie show. I was 14 years old, and I'd been to a couple of WCW and WWE shows when they came through in Savannah, and we had a local indie promotion come through our county, and I was, oh man, this has got to be just as good. This has got to be just as good. Young kid, and we go, and goodness, title match. First time I ever saw somebody busted open in person. And it made me really get attached to wrestling. I said, this is something I really want to do. And funnily enough, I found where the promotion's actual home base was, holding tryouts, and I was a bigger kid, kind of stocky, looked old enough, but I get in there, they're like, all right, we'll have you run the ropes. I had a jiu-jitsu background, and I run the ropes. They're like, okay, we're gonna give you a bump, and I bump. They're like, how old did you say you were again? They were like, well, I'm 14. You need to get out of the ring right now. You need to find some. We'll hold a place for you, but right now you can't be here. But ever since then, I've been kind of looking around, and the indies in my area kind of died out. And funnily enough, a buddy of mine, he said, hey, there's a company out in Statesboro, about 30 minutes from where we lived. He said, they're holding tryouts. Let's just go. And I was like, you know what? All right. And ever since then, I had my tryout, went through training, and I've stuck with it ever since. And it has been a long road of blood, sweat, tears, time, and passion. And I wouldn't trade a second of it for the world.
So you get in, you're doing your thing. So what made you decide, you know what? I want my own promotion.
Well, wildly, I'll make a long story short. Me and a fella at the promotion that we had been working at kind of had a falling out with the owner, and we had said, well, Savannah used to be one of the last big wrestling cities, in the Georgia territories back in the day. That was the last stop essentially before you went down to Florida to run the Florida territories.
Right.
And, at that point, the only real wrestling that would come through was a SmackDown would hit the Civic Center every once in a while, once every 3-4 years. And we said, you know what, let's give wrestling back to Savannah. Let's make wrestling that big thing that it used to be back in the day, where, it doesn't matter what race, creed, anything you are welcome to wrestling, because wrestling's meant to bring people together.
Very much so. So with that decision, what was your first steps into making that vision a dream?
Luckily enough,
vision a dream. I meant, how did you make that vision a reality?
Yes, sir. My co-founder, fellow by the name of Voodoo Jack, at the time he was working with the Savannah Bananas. He was a Savannah local. So he had already had some connections with some venues. He and I were, at the time, a tag team, kind of traveling all around Georgia, East and Ollie. We went to, working a few shows at the Landmark Arena where AJ Styles, was getting his start.
Right.
Macon, Warner Robins, down in Florida. We were kind of a little bit of everywhere. And we were finding guys who had a similar mindset, a lot of young guys, a lot of really hungry guys who said, hey, a lot of these places aren't taking chances on us. Let's work and let's build something up together to where it goes from a bunch of guys who are just young and hungry it was in reality a wrestler's kind of promotion. You know, everybody said we're all invested in this. This is all a piece of our pie. Let's all make sure it's better for the sake of the overall everything, because the mindset that we have, if one person's eating good, everybody's going to be eating good. And you know, it took a long time to actually sit down and figure out, hey, you know, we want this guy. He's got a lot of the same ideals that we have. You know, we're all embodying the same vision of wrestling being this big thing again, this event that drives the community together.
So, how long have y'all been going?
So our first show was at Coach's Corner in Savannah, September the 20th of 2020. You know, the COVID restrictions were finally starting to lax up a little bit. And Savannah's always been a very big tourist and entertainment kind of city. And, you know, a lot of places were still like, we're kind of leery. The venue was it was a restaurant, but it was, you know, it had a massive outdoor area where they normally did concerts and things like that. So we said, okay, you know, we can have the outside, people can have their space, you know, for those who were, you know, still kind of COVID leery. If people want to wear a mask, they can wear a mask, but if they don't want to, they're already outside. So it's kind of free air, free space.
Right.
And, you know, we really struck when the iron was I'd say, well, the iron was still cold, but we sure enough got it right back hot. You know, there was a hunger for entertainment in the city, and we started delivering, and we continued to deliver.
That is awesome. So, tell us about the company. Tell us more about your champions. And
well, we actually have a pretty wild set of titles. You know, we've got our Coastal Empire heavyweight champion. That's currently Main Event Mike, or formerly known as the Flying Fro, Michael Walker. You know, he is a high flyer and a tenacious little son of a gun. I don't know if I can call him a heavyweight, but he is every bit of a monster when given the opportunity. We actually just had a show this past Saturday where we had our new tag team turmoil champions crowned. The Allentown were our former champions, and the wild part about our tag team championships is they are always defended under Freebird rules. If you have a faction, you know, 3-man plus, it is most definitely champion's advantage, because the challengers do have to say, hey, these are the 2 men we are going to have competing, and the champions have free reign to say, okay, we're going to pick the best possible option for us as champions to defend these titles.
right.
And our Coastal Chaos champion, Cornelius Pepperbottom, just recently won that at our Jandemonium show in January. Wildly enough, unseated Hakeem Young after close to 400 days as champion. And the thing with the Coastal Chaos Championship is it will be defended in some sort of hardcore, hey, this is a crazy setup kind of match. I'm excited to say we have brought back female talent, so hopefully before too long we can crown a female champion as well.
Cool. If I were just getting into Coastal Empire Wrestling, what would be the thing that you would say stands out about your company?
Every show, the thing I would most definitely say about our company is the next show will be better. we are always working on improving. We're working within the city of Savannah to continue to improve. Our talent is always top notch. We've got great names like Shug D, who also known as Pineapple Pete, Bryce Cannon. He's been all over the place. A massive young man by the name of Tyler Stevens, the Wall. We feel like we definitely showcase some of the best talent in Southeast Georgia, hands down. I know personally we have people chomping at the bit. For 2024, we dominated a majority of the Georgia Wrestling History Awards. We had Feud of the Year, Match of the Year, Most Improved, Promotion of the Year, Bookers of the Year. We just top to bottom. It was hard not to smile that night. And we have amazing talent all the way around. Hakeem Young, that young man is a monster who has a bright future ahead of him. Last year's, Rookie of the Year, J. Alpha Miller, Teflon, he is fantastic and probably the most patriotic young man I've ever met. And then we've also got guys, like I was saying, the frat daddy, Bryce Cannon. He's been all over the place. He's been on Impact. He's been on AEW. The Flying Main Event Mike now. And that's not even counting our tag team division. We've got Exodus. We've got the Allentown. The Good Hand, which is Shug D and the Wall. The Saturday Night Temptations. We just have a massive amount of talent, and I will go ahead and easily say every single night they deliver. I know after every show, it's a wild feeling when every fan that walks past you says, "Thank you for this. Thank you. This was amazing." It's a goosebumps kind of feeling.
And that's a great thing. I can tell just in the way you're speaking that you're uberly proud of what y'all put on down there. And some may say this is being cocky or arrogant, but I think you should be proud of yourselves in moments like that. I mean, you're doing so much for your area, and especially and being that I'm in an area, Knoxville, Tennessee, that we have a rich wrestling history, and for
Yes,
a while it was gone, and now it's back. It's just that major feeling that it's like, wow, I can't believe we didn't have this at a point. And it's like, yes, it's back. We're doing a great thing, and you're putting you're making history, and it makes you even prouder because of the rich history that the area always already have. You're adding on to that, and that I know just has to feel wonderful.
It does. I know. And funnily enough, we actually just got a photographer who started coming to the shows, and she had never been to wrestling before. She had always thought it was kind of hokey, the usual wrestling, that fake stuff.
Right.
And she came to the show, and she works with me outside of wrestling, and it was one night we were on the way back after the show. And she said, "I have never felt that kind of energy before in a room. Just everyone was just so invested. Everyone was brought together, and the fact that we can give that back to the community, whatever venue we're at, I know right now we're running out of a VFW, so every show that we're running is helping the veterans at the VFW, um, and to just be able to give that back to the community, to give the community that release, for at least 2 hours. The problems of the world aren't there. All they have to worry about is, what is Michael Walker going to do? What is, the Saturday Night Scream Carl Hager about to do? Is Cantrell gonna rule tonight? And it's a wonderful feeling to take away those problems of the people and give them something to just look forward to and invest themselves in.
Do you still wrestle?
On occasion. I've kind of taken a back seat right now. There's some backstage things I'm kind of working on to improve the product. And it's paying dividends. Now I know there's going to be the occasional pop-up show. You're going to see Sergeant Scratch throwing down hands, but I know right now I've kind of taken a back seat. I'm kind of focusing on other things, and I will say it has definitely helped improve the product, and I'm very glad at the fact that we're bringing in more people every single show. The biggest problem that we have right now is we don't have enough chairs and we don't have enough space, which is always a good problem to have. But
yes, it is.
It's still a problem that we're working on a solution for, be it bleachers in the building or, hey, we might have to move outside, one of the two, but we're working on it.
What is your big show of the year?
So we have two. Our January show, which is Jandemonium. We just had our third Jandemonium. And wildly enough, it was during one of those rare Georgia snowstorms. And I know that some people might say it was cocky, but I am overly proud. We still pulled a massive house. There were a lot of people who said, you know what? The roads are icy. The roads are full of snow. Everybody's already bought all the bread and milk from all the stores, but we're going to try to make it out there. And we still pulled an amazing crowd. They were hot. They loved every second of it. And I couldn't be more proud. It was a rough day, but overall it was a very warm feeling to know that our fan base said, you know what? Nah, we're willing to risk it. We're going to go. We can't miss this. And our another show that's coming up is Legends of the Low Country. And we're currently working on some stuff. I can't speak on it publicly right now, but I promise you, if every T gets crossed and I gets dotted, it is going to be a big one. A very, very big one. But I know our other show, we do have a Rumble every December. And it is our Coastal Casino Rumble. And it's a good time. Normally we're able to involve a couple of charities around the area, try to raise some money for animal shelters, stuff like that. And, it's a lot of giving back to the community that's helping support us.
That's something that I think it's just in the blood of wrestling in general that I've never really known of a real promotion. When I say real, I'm not talking about mud shows. That do not love to give back. They go out of their way to be a part of their community and make sure they're giving back. If it's not to a charity, it's to a high school or whatever. And it's such an amazing thing that wrestling puts everybody needs above their own.
Oh yes,
And I,
sir.
and I love that, being part of a community that we do such unselfish things. And I really, it makes me proud to be, again, a part of the wrestling community and say I'm a
Yes,
brother
sir.
of that.
I most definitely agree with that, and it's a good feeling because even if it's not a charity show, you're taking away people's problems. The world's already rough enough. Let's give a little bit back. Let's give a little bit less stress into the world. Let's add a few more smiles while we're
Yes.
while we're here.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. How do you feel when you see talent that you've helped grow and get better go on the national stage? How do you feel about that?
I love it. I one guy that we've used in the past recently, Don Furio, was recently unmasked as the masked man. Um,
Wow.
I'm not gonna lie, I gave a little cheer when I saw it. I said, "Hey, all right." Um, I'm always a person who I hate to see you go, but if it's to better yourself, I'd love to watch you leave. Um, I'm always, the wrestling business, somebody's going to replace you eventually. And I'd love to see you be the best version of yourself, even if it's not with me, anywhere. I always like to see my guys grow. I like to see my guys evolve. I've worked very closely over the past 6 years with a lot of these guys, and to see how they've started and to see where they're at now, it's an amazing feeling. Um, I know one of our guys is, and I'm gonna leave him unnamed right now, but he's going to be doing some work with Impact, and I could not be happier for him. Um, when you see it, go check our YouTube. You'll figure out who I'm talking about. But he couldn't be prouder of him. I've known this man for several years, and just to see how he's grown and evolved as a talent and as a character, it's fantastic to see. I've got nothing but good things to say about him. And to watch these guys grow and evolve and to see newer talent coming in, you know, and seeing them go from where they were when they were first with us to where they are now. I remember, a lot of our guys, they started out, Coastal was the only place they were working, and now they're everywhere from the top of Georgia down to the bottom of Georgia, all over the place, just moving. I actually just saw one of our guys was out in Arkansas recently, and I'm like, all right, you're making moves, you're moving. I like it. I like to see it. I always want our guys to prosper, because that this is the only selfish part. It looks good on us when they prosper, but I love that they're prospering, that they're flourishing in the wrestling business.
And that's one of those things that I again love about wrestling. You don't have to be the be in WWE or AEW or any other company to be satisfied and happy. There are so many different great promotions out here that you can build your name and reputation. And I especially nowadays, there are just so many great promotions out, and you can. And what I love about it is it feels like the old territorial days where
Oh,
you could
yes.
go and build on your craft, learn different things, but better because you can follow them basically because most
Mhm.
promotions have YouTube page or on a streaming service and stuff, and you can actually follow the wrestlers around and feel like you're playing a big part in helping them grow and mature and become the best version of themselves. And I
Oh, yes.
and that's why I love wrestling today. It- you could go damn near anywhere and and make a name for yourself and do something and make some amazing things.
I most definitely agree. I mean, it's it's wild to know that, back in the day it was, oh, I got to get the magazine. I got to get the magazine. Where was this guy at? Where was he at? Oh, trading tapes way back in the day. You get a grainy footage, you see a little tiny Dusty Rhodes running across the screen. And now, like you were saying, a lot of wrestlers and a lot of promotions, they've got YouTubes, they've got Facebook, they've got TikTok, Instagram, and it goes to show the level of support that people do have for wrestling. One thing that I'm really proud of is wrestling's not a dirty word anymore. It's, with the mainstream appeal that guys like John Cena, Batista, The Rock, Miz have added to, you know, the wrestling world as a whole. And as much I hate to say it, even guys like Logan Paul,
Yeah.
they've added a lot of mainstream appeal. My wife, she's a Bad Bunny fan, and the minute she saw him in the Royal Rumble, she lost her mind. To know that a lot of mainstream now isn't it's not the you got to watch wrestling in a dark dirty basement and like I hope nobody finds me. To know that it's grown as a culture so much is just it's heartwarming. And to be able to follow a lot of these guys on their journey, from be it start to finish or start to however far they go, it's a wonderful feeling. And everybody's got such a different flavor. you know it's a lot more than Baskin Robbins. You've got a lot of folks all over the place, and you can really find what wrestlers you connect with now, and to be able to secure that following with them is a wonderful thing. um
It
it
definitely
just
is. And this is something I don't talk about enough, but man, think about the I mean, I say wrestling, the referees. Referees are even becoming big names, and you can go out to different places and hone your craft. Of course, managers and valet. It's and I've said this a lot over the last couple of weeks, but wrestling is the ultimate team sport that people don't realize is a team sport.
I do want to give, as you mentioned, referees. I do want to give a shout out to our one of our referees. He actually is the first ever Rookie of the Year winner as a referee. Um, Clark De Benedito. The kid is fantastic. I want to say he's a second generation in the wrestling business, and I love sitting down talking to this kid. Just turned 18. The kid's got a fantastic head for the business. If you're gonna go follow a referee, I would most definitely say follow him. The kid's all over the place and is one of the best referees I've seen. He actually just recently during our 3 stages of hell match, poor kid was wearing his meta glasses and got speared through a table, and oof,
Oh,
he was feeling it the next day, but that camera shot was amazing. And for him to be willing to do that was just fantastic. If I could, just to shout him out really quick.
yeah, definitely. And that it's the thing of, for me, that type of love that wrestlers and promoters like yourself, I love seeing that. That just lets you know how much the guys and girls mean to you, and that you do your best to let everybody know what they do and to follow them, because it's very easy to think that owners can be grumpy, and the old adage, "Oh, you're gonna rip somebody off. You only thinking of
The
your
old hot dog
needs."
and a handshake. Yeah, no,
Yeah,
I
yeah.
most definitely. I've worked for a few of those guys, and I most definitely said we're not going to be that.
But
Um,
but see, that's what I love, and I'm 52 years old, so I remember when the Bill Wattses and the Dusty Rose, and where, oh no, I can't trust nobody except myself. So I'm gonna be a champion for 2,000 years. They come to see me. I'm the only draw. And again, I don't fault them for that, because it was a different time, different place.
mhm.
But now a lot of these a lot of owners and bookers and promoters, they have realized that you can still protect the business and your assets without being to demean people, to be
Mhm.
selfish, and hell, and honestly, it's better, because then you have more people wanting to work for you, and more people hearing how good, and you get that great reputation, and people want to work for great people.
Yes,
So
sir. And
it
it's something that I am seeing, starting to change in the business. It was actually kind of wild. Our Jandemonium show, there were 3 different promotions represented at that show. Our promotion, um, the owner of Action Pro Wrestling, Matt Hankins, was out there, and United Pro Wrestling made an appearance, and I've always been one who I love for other places to be involved. I would love for other businesses to be in our area, as long as we're not running on the same day, brother. I am more than happy to help you however I can. And to know that other promotions are willing and wanting to work with us, that we aren't one of those promotions that are out there with a bad name. We're a hey, these guys are here for wrestling. They're not here just for themselves. They're not here to badmouth other places. They're here for wrestling. it it's nice to know that a lot more places are starting to accept that culture, um, and to grow together. It's I know we actually were working very closely with IWE out of Augusta. They kind of took a break from you know running an actual show. Their champions were defending titles, number one contenderships were named on other shows, and we worked with them for a while. We're very close with their owners, um, and still to this day, we're still working together with them. They go to our shows, we go to their shows, and even though we've got a good 2 hours between us, our fan bases have started to overlap, and that's good for everybody. it's more wrestling for the community. It's more tickets sold for both promotions, and the mindset that, it's not just you're going to work at my company and my company only. It's good to know that negative mindset is going away. And it's a wonderful feeling to see.
And it's ironic that you brought that up, because I was going to ask you the question about working with other companies. And what makes me love that is, just this weekend, I went to 2 different shows, and both of the owners worked with each other and had talent work both shows. And I thought to myself, that's what it should be. Be willing to work, and they would defend the titles on each other's shows. And I thought, man, that's how it should be. And not that, this is my area, I can't work with you, you're not gonna steal my talent, you ain't gonna steal my fans, I got money. What? Everybody wants money, everybody wants to earn money. But if you can work with another company and both of you grow and actually make the area better,
it's a wonderful feeling. It's a wonderful thing to see.
It is.
I know there was a promotion out here, Kingdom Pro, their first show, they had a few guys cancel. One of our champions was wrestling, and I said, well, I know you guys are newer in the area. You don't really have a title on your show yet. Why don't we can have our title defended on your show, and it'll draw some of our guys in. And, it definitely did. It brought some fans in. Our Coastal Chaos title was defended. It brought in some extra people. It helped them out. I'm a big believer in, hey, if you've got one of our titles, take it with you. Be proud of it. Be proud of where you're at and where you're coming from. If you want to defend it, fight tooth and nail to make sure you keep it. But defend it all over the state of Georgia. If you want to go out of state and defend it, by all means, let folks know about Coastal Empire Wrestling. I'm all for it.
So that was an interesting statement there. What would you do if a title is lost to another promotion? I mean,
thankfully we do have rematch clauses, and those rematches will happen in Savannah on some home turf. But I mean, I've always been hey, the worst it's going to do is get us some more looks. If they see how hard our champions are fighting to defend that title, they're going to go, okay, well, if they're fighting that hard here, how hard are they fighting at home? I want to see that.
Right.
I want to see some different competition. Let's take a gander over in this direction. And I mean, it goes back to it helps everybody out. And I'd love to see other promotions just flourish. I know we've started hitting a pretty good growth. Our production's getting better, and everything's just it's looking a lot nicer. And I feel that right now I would be close to say we've got a TV quality product for people to watch. All the way around. I can't do anything but sing my talents praises. Be it from, doorman to main event, I can't do anything but sing their praises. Everybody, we've got a fantastic team that, the last Saturday of every month, they know where they're going to be, and they know that they are going to give it their all. It's a great feeling. It's a very heartwarming feeling. I hate to say the old adage of we're a family, but, I tell all these boys, well, all the talent, everybody top to bottom, let me know when you make it home. I don't care what time it is. My phone's always on. let me know you make it home, and I'm gonna thank you when you let me know you're back where you're gonna be safe. You know, I care very, very deeply about every one of our talent. And, you know, the fact that every single show, you know, I'm probably looking at a good 25 messages of, hey, I made it where I'm going. Hey, I'm at the house. Hey, I made it to my hotel. You know, hey, we're done. You know, the Uber dropped us off. You know, it's a good feeling to know that it's not just me asking that question. It's all the talent asking each other, hey, you know, let me know you're safe. Let me know you made it where you need to be. If something's wrong, let us know. We will come and help. So as much as I hate to say the old adage of, you know, we're a family, I very much feel a familial connection to all of these people. You know, everybody top to bottom, they're looking out for each other, and we're very, very tight knit. You know, coastal's the kind of place where once you get in, you're gonna fight tooth and nail to stay in. You know, it's the place to be, I feel. But I know I've got a bias, but I haven't I haven't heard anything negative about working with us so far. And I'm always up for, you know, constructive criticism where it's needed.
So, what is the goal for the next 5 years?
I know the goal, our 5 year goals are pretty big. We actually just had a new arena built, the End Market Arena out here in Savannah. Um, and while I would love to fill it up, that is a good like 30 tiered building. So I don't know if we'll fill that up. I know within the next year I would like to at least run a show at the Civic Center in Savannah, you know, to be able to run a show where I saw, you know, Kane and Booker T and the Big Show, Eddie Guerrero, Rey Mysterio, all those guys working, to be able to work in that same building in that same capacity. I feel like, you know, we can. It's a believable goal. If not within the next year, definitely within the next five. Um, I know the big thing, St. Patrick's Day in Savannah is a big thing, and we're planning a 5 day show week, with multiple shows a day. Uh, I don't know if you know about St. Patrick's Day in Savannah, but it is usually tied for second or third largest St. Patrick's Day celebration in the U.S.
Wow.
Um, and you know, to that amount of eyes on our talent, I feel like would be a massive boost. Um, Along with, you know, we're running a lot more shows a year right now. We're only running once a month. But a lot more places are reaching out saying, hey, we want you to guys, you know, to do a show at our venue over here. We want you to guys to do, you know, a show over there. Um, I know currently we're in talks for about 7 extra shows this year, and the list just keeps getting added to more and more every month. Um, I know I'm normally running around all over the place, just meeting with other businesses, other venues. You know, hey, we want you to run a show here, and we're most definitely going to make sure that, you know, the last Saturday of the month is ours. But we can add a few more days in the month. It's not going to hurt our feelings.
I want to thank you, not for just coming on my show and representing your company, but just for the passion you have. Again, when you can tell when you're talking to someone when they're being genuine, and it's just you give such a genuine feel. I can tell your passion for the sport and how proud you are of your company. And I'm always a firm believer of giving people their flowers. And I, you definitely deserve it, especially when, again, I'm big traditionalist. I love when companies go back to hubs where wrestling was flourishing, and when you can do that, it's something special. And I think that it you carry on the legacy of all the different legends that came before you, and you let them know that it means as much to you as it did to them. And I want to thank you for that.
I very much appreciate it. That it means a lot because a lot of folks they don't see the promoter aspect. They don't see the backstage. I know a lot of backstage stuff is often very much stigmatized and dramatized, and a lot of people don't realize that there's a person behind it who was at one point a 5-year-old little boy that was just the biggest fan ever, that said, I want to do this one day. And to be able to, give that back to the community and put that, like you were saying, that passion back into the community. I know I'm about to turn 35. I'm never gonna grace the big WWE screens, but if I can inspire, that 5-year-old kid to be the next John Cena, to be the next Rhea Ripley, to be the next AJ Styles, to be that next wrestler, I feel like that's that much, if not a better contribution to the business. And it warms my heart that, I very much appreciate you giving me my flowers. I very much thank you for that. And I thank you for having me on tonight. It's been a pleasure to talk to you this evening. It definitely does not feel like it's been close to an hour. It feels like 5 minutes have gone by.
I know.
But
that's what I love. When you can have a great conversation and you're like, wow, it's really been an hour. and see, and this is one of the reasons that I wanted to do the promotion appreciation month, was to let people know how much work that you, the promoter, owner, do. We as fans, we just take it for granted. And I wanted to let people see that aspect, to understand y'all bust y'all asses to give us such amazing work. And it's such a, sometimes a thankless job. So again, I want people to have a little better understanding and appreciation. Like I said, when I went to this weekend, I was very happy. I got to talk to the owners, and they were appreciative of me. But I think I was more appreciative of them and what they give to the fans. I mean, when you can you go somewhere, and this is how I judge how good a show is. I close my eyes and just listen. And if I hear the fans and I can't tell where I'm at, where it could be 50 people, but it sounds like 2,000, 20,000. You just feel that passion and energy, and then you see those little kids enjoy. You see the grandparents enjoy. Everybody enjoying it, and sometimes it's crazy because a lot of times I can just stand there and be just as happy as watching the fans having fun and talking to the wrestlers and everything. I love it, and I'm trying to get out to different more promotions this year to just experience it and have fun and be able to tell people, hey, I've been here. You want to go here. They have this action. They have tremendous action. So it it's been the biggest pleasure for me. It's been hard work, but in the end, I've loved every minute of it. And
yes, sir.
Again, I thank you for everything you're doing and you're living up to the wrestling motto: leave the business better than you found it.
Oh, yes, sir. That is the mindset.
That and that lets you know you are a true wrestler.
I very much appreciate it.
Do you want to give any shout outs or anything before we go?
If your fans are very much looking forward to we've got about a 200-hour library of wrestling content if they want to watch it on YouTube. We're on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. I do want to give a shout out to a lot of our talent. Like I was saying before, our referee, Clark DeBenedito, the kid is a fantastic guy. Cantrell, if you're ever wanting to watch, the closest thing to a human bulldog fighting tooth and nail, that man is where it's at. Hakeem Young, fantastic guy, our longest reigning Coastal Chaos champion, close to 400 days. Bryce Cannon, the frat daddy, that guy is top to bottom, probably one of the best talents I've ever seen. Everybody on our roster, if I named everybody, I'd be here for an hour. But to just give all of our guys their flowers, we've got, I feel like, the best roster in the state of Georgia. And we're constantly improving. I see a lot of guys starting to fight tooth and nail. If any of your viewers are out in the area, we are about to start a training company as well for folks who do want to get into the business. A lot of our trainers, they've got at least anywhere between 8 to 15 years of very, very good experience in the business. We're here to grow wrestling. Savannah used to be a wrestling city, and we're fighting tooth and nail to make it that way again. And I'm very thankful you had me on this evening. It has been a pleasure to be out here.
Well, you are more than welcome, and you have an open invitation. Come back if you want to promote a card, just talk wrestling, whatever. You have that invitation, my friend.
Well, I very much appreciate that.
You're welcome.
And I'd love to be back. It was a blast.
Well, we just will make it happen then.
Oh, yes, sir.
Guys, girls, thank you so much for joining me this evening. Again, another amazing episode. Again, there are just so many different great promotions out there. There is no excuse why you can't find one. The reason you can't find one because you're not looking hard enough. I always say before I leave my show is please, please, please support your local indie promotions. Again, you just never know who you will find on those shows that will become your new favorite wrestler. And the experience is fun. You get that more intimate setting, and it seems to mean more. and it could be just me, and could be a lot of people who do it, but it is definitely different than your bigger promotions. I'm not saying it's better. I'm not saying it's worse. But what I'm saying is it's a different experience that I believe once you get hooked, you'll be glad you did. So please definitely support your local indie wrestling promotion. With that being said, I'm Professor Burr. This has been a Burr's Thought, and we will see you around the campfire very, very soon. Y'all take care.